So about 1 in 5 banked South Africans have thrown their toys about customer service. But a new survey by market research firm Consulta Research shows that South African banks aren't performing that badly. It finds that South African banks have achieved, in fact, slightly higher customer satisfaction scores compared to last year. The banks measured were the big ones: FNB, Absa, Nedbank, Standard Bank and Capitec. Well, to discuss, we're joined by CEO of Consulta Research, Adre Schreuder. Thank you for joining us, Adre. So now everybody complains. I complain. But looking at this, I was bowled over. So above 76 out of 100, which is the overall score. Yeah. Does that mean our banks are getting an A, basically?
Yes, but by international comparison, we're actually doing quite well. But what we do see is that we're still not really meeting expectations. We have a very diverse market. So we have your entry-level customers that's currently quite happy with Capitec. But as you climb the ladder towards high-level segments, we do see a lot of dissatisfaction. We don't meet expectations.
So does that help Capitec, which is one of the top ranked, and disadvantage the others because they're dealing with the more high-end consumers, online, more expectations?
I think it's an old marketing principle. They selected their target market well and they satisfy them. They listen to them and they give them exactly what they want.
I'm still bowled over at the score, because you do point out that 1 in 5 banking customers have complained somehow or other. So in light of that, we're actually not very unhappy with our banks.
That's one of the things that I highlight in the press release, is that this is the concerning part of that, because South Africa is still lagging when it comes to customer complaints across industry. If you compare us with international standards, this is the one area that if organizations can actually achieve a better listening to customers' complaints and then solving it, especially the actual efficiency of solving complaints when they are raised. I must just add, complaints now are raised everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, anywhere. And so it becomes
so
quite
as a bank,
challenging.
you have to be everywhere. Is this something that you can test as part of customer service? People talk about how their complaints were resolved, so it's very important.
Yeah, the complaints handling efficiency is actually quite worrying. Internationally, you need to achieve at least a 50% efficiency rate, and we're not really getting there to the comparison with the international standards. Okay,
so let's look at the rankings. So we said Capitec is up there, FNB is up there, Absa most improved, perhaps. Just give us the full picture.
Yeah, for the last couple of years, FNB and Capitec has been leading the industry. One needs to remember that Capitec does have a different market segment in terms of entry-level to middle market segment, FNB being very stable. The worrying factor that we highlight here is that we've seen their growth rates to actually have stabilized. And the surprising one is that after 2-3 years of struggling, Absa has actually made a huge turnaround. And that is the news of this year's index.
So what is FNB doing that other banks aren't doing, or can you tell what Absa has done to move up?
Well, first of all, in FNB, we see that they are very good when it comes to electronic channels. They've been leading from the start. Their app, their online banking and everything around that. Absa is actually turning around on their ability to solve problems and their warmth, the empathy component of dealing with customers after struggling a couple of years.
Which is important for the lower segment that hasn't always been catered for, hasn't always felt loved by banks. So they appreciate that customer service.
Yeah, that's so true.
The rankings depend on the expectations. Does that mean as our expectations rise in future years, these numbers can go down?
Yes. The reality is that as you improve, and this is the case with Capitec and FNB, they raise the expectations by providing good service. Therefore, the bar is raised every time that you're actually leading. So it becomes a very difficult game to keep it there. So expectations are formed by previous experience, but also what your competitors are saying. And we've seen Capitec are saying, ask your bank if they deliver what you want. And this is the type of thing that we see the other banks needs to listen to, is to really listen to their customers' expectations and deliver on that.
Put this into context across industries now, because you do similar surveys in other sectors, and also you alluded to this, we benchmark globally. So how are the banks doing in that full context?
First of all, globally, we're third in the world. Kuwait is leading, then USA. We did beat the UK, and we've always been quite good when it comes to banking. But when it comes to the comparison with other industries, there are quite a number of industries that's doing much better than South Africa. So banking is in sort of the bottom third of South African economy.
Okay, so not doing very well. And there's always this perception that banks can rest on their laurels. Correct. Because people are reluctant to switch, but you're finding that that is actually changing.
Well, we see massive switching. You know, some other banks are saying X 100,000 of customers gained in the last couple of months or years. And we do see some switches. And we do see that from the Net Promoter Score, where people are actually recommending banks based on their switching behavior, and therefore their friends and colleagues would possibly follow suit if that's the case. Okay,
so finally, what's the future? Do you think FNB and Capitec will maintain their lead? Will Absa rise? How do you see it playing out? And I guess because of expectations, because of switching, banks are going to have to work so much harder, which I'm happy about.
An index like this is actually opening up its transparency. You know, the fact of the matter is the guys have realized that Absa has made a turnaround. So they probably will watch that. FNB and Capitec has stagnated a little bit, so they need to up the game. And some of the middle market, the Nedbank has also shown some improvement, and Standard Bank has slipped into the last. So I'm pretty sure the guys are going to take notice on it and do something about it next year.
All right, thank you very much for your time. We're CEO of Consulta Research, Adre Schreuder.